Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 32, which is a forex pair, this time GBP JPY. If you aren't familiar with this series, don't worry, I'll make sure to attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order, in the description below. And I also attach my Telegram channel, where I forward the analysis and videos from TradingView and YouTube in case you want to get notified. So let's do it. We always start from the higher time frames, weekly and daily, which we call our rejection time frames, to know where we stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside a range? And as usual, as price approaches the lower bound, we'll be looking for buy setups. It can be non-horizontal or horizontal, just like this one. And as price approaches the upper bound or the upper resistance area, we'll be looking for sell setups. It can also be horizontal, just like this one, or non-horizontal, just like these two. We've got three types of rejections, and we'll go over all of them today. The first one is a horizontal support and resistance, where we have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain level or area. The second one is a supply and demand zone. For example, if you have an aggressive movement upward from a certain area, it would be a demand area, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for sell setups. And if you have an aggressive movement downward from a certain area, as it's a supply zone, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for sell setups. The third type is a non-horizontal supply and resistance, also known as a trend line. So let's start by drawing our horizontal supply and resistance from our rejection time frames, weekly and daily. I always start from weekly time frame to see the big picture, and the way to do it is very simple. You simply draw a random line on your chart. Let's make it in blue, and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. For example, if we go lower, we can see that we can connect many swings from this area. It was acting as support previously, then price broke it downward, and yes, it's also a supply zone, as we have an aggressive movement down from it. And now acting as a resistance again and again. So it's obviously a very strong resistance area, and I always like to make it as a round number. So for example, I'll go for 157, and I make an offset for it, so it would be around 158.5 or 159, because we've got what? A supply area around here. Let's go for 159. So now this is a resistance area, and for the buyers to take over, or for it to become a support again, we need an aggressive break above it. In this case, we'll be looking for buy on the retest. But for now, it's obviously acting as a resistance. So as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for what? For sell setups. Next, let's continue. Let's go for green, because we already have the blue one. And if we go lower, we can see that we've got many rejections. This is indeed a very powerful one. We've got resistance here, then support, then resistance again and again, then price broke it upward. So it's now acting as what? Obviously a support area. So now, like, just from drawing these two levels or areas, we can know that GBP/JPY is currently trading inside this floor, what I call a floor. So this is our ceiling, and this is our floor. As price approaches the upper bound, looking for sell, lower bound, looking for buy. As simple as that. Of course, let's make an offset for it. Let's go for 149. Amazing. Or like 150, because it's a round number, right? And let's go for 47. This is it, right? To cover the previous wicks or previous rejections here and here as well. Now, like, I'll go over the remaining ones very fast, because we already know that GBP/JPY is currently here. So I'll focus on the current price action, current market structure. We also have one here around 141. I'll not draw an offset for it, because like it's already like below the price. We also have, it's very obvious, this one around 126, 127. Let's go for 126.5. And we also have one inside it, like, and I'll keep it all in green because I want to focus on this one. And let's go for 135, right? These are the only supply and resistance we can draw. Of course, we can make an offset for this one to cover these wicks, an offset for this one like this to cover these wicks here, and for this one as well. Okay, but let's focus on the current price action here. Next, I always try to zoom in to monitor the current price action or to monitor the market structure. But we can also zoom into daily time frame. I don't think we can draw any more supply and resistance because we already got the big picture for weekly time frame. So if we zoom into daily, we can see the latest price action better. And we always like also try to draw anything that engulfs the overall movement. For this case, we already have our horizontal supply and resistance, but if you also draw a trend line like this, we can see that even though that GBP/JPY is trading inside a range, but it's forming like a flat rising channel, right? We can see it here that this trend line here has been rejected multiple times by the price here, here, and here. This is what I call the outer trend line, which show us the overall movement. I can even make an offset for it like this. Here we go. So now this is very important because now we've got this area here, which is the intersection of the upper trend line and the horizontal resistance area. We also have one here, which is like almost horizontal. So I will not draw it. Okay, so this entire area is a resistance area where we'll be looking for some setups. And our supply and resistance are always areas and not laser lines. Okay, so this is our entire support area. And the reason why this trend line is very important, because we know that now price can reject this area before retesting this exact zone, right? Even though we have multiple rejections from it, but since this one is going into a flat rising channel, so chances are that the price will not go as low as before. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that we also have what? We also have an aggressive movement outwards from here. So if we were to draw a demand zone, it would be like this. So we can now know that this is indeed a very strong area, as it's the intersection of a demand and this trend line in brown. But I will not draw it because we already have our rejection here. That's how you keep your chart as clean as possible. Okay, so that's what we know from weekly and daily. This is very important to know where we are in the market. We are overall bullish, a flat bullish, right? Inside this supply and resistance. Price is currently sitting in the middle of nowhere in the middle. So I'm not interested in looking for setups, right? Unless it would be a trend following setup. So now let's zoom into lower time frames to look for what, in this case, for sell setups, or if price approaches this lower bound, we'll be looking for buy, and as price approaches the upper bound, we'll be looking for sell. If you zoom into H4 time frame, we can see that previously we were overall bullish, that's it. Then price got some a consolidation and broke it downwards. So now we are bearish. Then price traded higher to retest this resistance again. Then broke below this area, which formed like a head and shoulders pattern and traded lower. We had a break below it, a classic retest, and this impulse movement. So we are clearly overall bearish now. Sorry about that. I forgot to read these ones here. Okay, so this is our view from daily time frame, and this is our view from H4 time frame. So now from H4, we know that we are overall bearish in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of our supply and resistance. So if we draw a trend line like this, which engulfs the overall movement down, we can start from here or we can start from here, doesn't really matter. And here we go. So we've got two possible scenarios, this one here and this one here. I'll keep the low one because it follows the price action more. Let's make it in, you know what, I'll make it in orange because we have blue here and we have green down there. And we also make an offset for it. I don't want to see it on higher time frames. Fantastic. Okay, so this is it. And I make it like a little bit steeper to cover this one here, which would form like what? Like a falling broadening wedge. Here we go. So currently GBP/JPY is overall bearish. Got our impulse. Here we go. Correction, impulse, correction, impulse. And we are currently where? Inside a correction phase. And since we are overall bearish and approaching the upper bound or the upper trend line in orange, we'll be looking forward for the next impulse movement downward. Just like previously, correction, and then we traded lower, correction, traded lower. So now we are inside a correction phase, waiting for the sellers to take over again to sell this one, unless, of course, that's how you can come up with your trading plan, unless price break this channel upward, then it would be a short-term reversal. In this case, as price approaches the resistance again, we'll be looking for sell setups, right? Which is our trading plan from daily time frame. Resistance here looking for sell, support here looking for buy. But since we are in the middle now and retesting this support and resistance zone, which is our previous high, we also have, if you want to make an offset for it like this. This is a very important area from H4 time frame, which also adds more confluence to our sell setup, which you are looking for. We've got multiple rejections from it, resistance, support, again and again, resistance, support, and now acting as support, broken downward, so now acting as a resistance area, okay? You know what, I'll keep the zone and I'll make it in orange like this. If you go to H4 again, we can see it better. Okay, let me make it appear on H4 first. So this is it. Fantastic. So now it's the intersection of a support and resistance and this trend line here. Now we know what we are looking for already, right? So it's enough, I guess. So let's make it appear on lower time frames. Anyway, I don't really think that we should zoom into M30 because we already can draw this channel here on H1 time frame. Let me make it appear only on, here we go. Fantastic. You know what? I want to see it also on M30. So like the way to do it is I always like what I draw on a time frame, I want to see it on a lower time frame, but not on a higher time frame. Okay. So this trend line here, I don't want to see it on daily, right? Because it's from H4, but I also want to see it on H1 and M30. Okay. This one here, I don't want to see it. I drew it from H1. I don't want to see it on H4. I want to see it on H1 and the lower one, which is M30. Okay. And I always like to make an offset for it like this. So now we're inside this correction phase, approaching a resistance area, looking for a trend following sell setup. And for now, what I'm waiting for is a third swing to form around the lower trend line to consider this trend line valid. And then this would be our trigger swing or the last swing setting around the trend line. This is it, right? And when the sell, of course, when this happens, of course, like price can still trade higher, invalidate the whole falling trend, invalidate the sell setup, right? That's why it's very important to look for extra confirmation. Don't sell blindly, even though you are around a resistance area. Always wait for the bears to take over again, because for now, the bulls are kicking in, making higher highs and higher lows. However, it's just a correction inside a bigger trend. That's the power of starting from the higher time frames and then zooming into the lower one. Okay. So unless we've got a break above it, in this case, a trend continuation to the upside would be expected, where we're looking for sell around this area here. For now, we are looking for trend following sell setups. If this happens, then I would sell below this swing break. The stop loss would be above the previous swing high, and we target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, which would be around our lower support area, which is around here. And as price approaches this area here, we'll be looking for buy setups and so on. So that's basically it for GBP and JPY. Best of luck, and I'll see you on the next one.